All right, guys, our next guest with me today is a dear friend of mine. He's a huge supporter of the show. I'd like to welcome our second guest today, Jeremy. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm really excited. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your willingness to be on here and your support. I know you were the first person to respond to me saying that, you wanted to be a part of this and you wanted to share some things. So I'm really excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm really stoked. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So before we get into your body image issues and hammer out some of the questions that we sent to you, can you tell me and our little community here a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born and raised in Surrey, BC, most awful place ever. Um, Following high school, I moved out to Grand Prairie, Alberta, where I met you and your lovely boyfriend. And yeah, I worked in the oil field for 9, 10 years, and I ended up having a daughter out there, and I'm now a single father and living in Kelowna, which is pretty spectacular. I'm loving it here, and so is the little miss. And yeah, we're just looking to start a new life and trying to help some other people out with your podcast here.
Yes, I love that. And we're so excited. It was so great that we got to meet you guys in Grand Prairie and that it didn't take too long that we were all apart and now we're both rebuilding our lives and getting to kind of go through all these things together. And it's really great to see you grow with your daughter as well and being in such a beautiful place. And we get to experience all that this year. So we're really excited. And I'm really excited with how much we're going to get through in this podcast adventure, because I know you're going to be a big part of this going forward. So I really appreciate your ability to be vulnerable with me and everyone else. So I'm super excited. I'm glad you guys came here. And also I'm excited for your future and what you got going on for school and all that. So all the exciting things. Now
Yes, you.
let's get down to the dirty, because we can have a whole podcast about how awesome Jeremy is. But yes, guys, for the record, Jeremy is our single father friend. We call him daddy number 2 around here, for those that know the mommy and daddy thing. And yeah, we're really excited to have him here. So let's get into the dirty about it. So to get started, what are some of the ways that you have suffered with body image issues?
So for me, I mean, going a little bit back into high school there, my biggest thing is in grade 9, I got some really bad acne, and it bothered me to the point where I couldn't even look people in the face. I didn't want to talk to any of my friends. So it was pretty bad. And it cleared up finally around grade 11. And that's when I finally started getting comfortable to actually talk to my friends face to face. And it was a bit of a struggle, but I guess that's what happens in high school.
Totally.
Following that, I guess more so today is my biggest issues with myself is my thin hair, my receding hairline, and been balding since I was 20 years old. So that's one of my biggest ones.
That's totally fair. I can relate so much with the acne one. That was something that I've had right in early high school, junior high, probably right up to high school, and it didn't go away. And I felt like we were told, like, oh, don't worry, as an adult, that'll go away. And then like 34, you're like, okay, but actually, no.
Still here.
It's still here. Like, am I a teenager still? Have I not grown up? Like, what is it that I have to do to get to that grown up level for this to go away? I totally relate to that. I definitely, I relate to the hair thing too, which is actually kind of crazy when you sent me responses. Not crazy. I was just like, I actually do relate in that, even though I didn't speak on it. Mainly on mine, I relate to that as well, because I also have very thin hair, and I did speak about that in mine too. I don't know if you heard, and I was just like, I look at girls with luscious locks and I just hate them. So I definitely understand that struggle that you have. Would you say, if you had to compare the acne then to the hair part now, which one do you think you would say you struggle with the most, or would have?
I struggle with the hair the most, especially since I'm still dealing with it. I mean, I still got the acne too here and there, like everybody does. I don't know why we freak ourselves out about it, but
where did
yeah.
that happen? I don't know. I want to blame it on like Teen Bops or something, like some stupid 90s like commercial or something made us care about that. And that's totally understandable. And I think too, when you were younger, there was just all emotions and like that was like your life, but it was just so easy to let go. Now it's like as you age, things are almost like more not dramatic, but they just seem to like take a bigger hold on you. I don't really know why, but So when would you say that you realized that this was an issue for you? So obviously you said starting back into junior high school it was, I think, with the acne.
It was, yeah.
And
So that would have been 2006.
it makes me feel so old when we talk about the early 2000s for some reason. I know there's going to be older people in the listening that are be like, "Oh, you're not old," but we all get to have those moments. So grade 9. So then would you say that anybody has made any mean comments to you about your body or your
Um,
image issues?
I mean, nobody's really made mean jokes. They've joked around with me. It hasn't been like too hurtful or anything, you know. But in high school, I went to a really good high school, and even though I was very insecure about my acne, all my friends, I've never heard a single thing about it.
Isn't that crazy too? I was the same way. It's like no one ever brought it up, but I just assumed they all thought I was disgusting about it. And like you said, you just, you felt that inside and you obviously didn't want to like look or talk to anybody because then it's like, then they would know that about you almost or something. But it was like they were probably struggling with the exact same things.
I know it's hard when you can feel all that pizza on your face, and it's like I can
Totally.
feel it, and I know it's there, and these people are looking at me while I'm talking to them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And then like add to that, you like try to do stuff to make it look better or like be better. And it's just like you're going, we didn't have online and all these like TikToks or YouTube to teach us how to like take care of our skin better. And it's like going home and plastering toothpaste all over your face and waking up with just like worst nightmares ever. I know you probably wouldn't relate. As a girl, you're like trying to put makeup on, and I'm sure you've seen it, and it would like have like 7 shades too dark on our face and just look terrible. But like I hope for the generation now that it's just a thing. Like it's just whatever, that person has bad acne. It's not like something where they have to feel disgusting about it or it's bad because it really doesn't define us. So I'm really glad no
No,
one made
definitely
mean
not.
comments. And of course guys are guys. Guys are a little bit different. There's a boundary where you guys I feel can joke a little bit more and it's not as damaging where it's like if a girl says it almost like at that age it's like cutting. You guys aren't like that. You guys aren't as like mean to each other that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just like as a joke way. I'm sure there's been times, but so then I know that you said that you don't necessarily care what people think, but has there been times where you do feel that people's like views of you, this has that ever made you feel shitty or how like
Um, I I guess I could think of a couple times where I've been in the dating scene and just like getting to know new people. It's kind of like all my insecurities come up at that point, you know what I mean?
oh
So
100%.
like meeting a new woman, and here I'm sitting here thinking, is she gonna like me? Because I'm 28, almost 29 years old, and I'm almost bald.
Totally get that. Totally get that. I think I had that in our family too. And it's like and it's so crazy when you think about all your insecurities and you're sitting there thinking about them and the other person sitting across the way like not even thinking about that at all. Like
Yeah,
not at all. But you're like, "Oh, obviously they see this immediately even though, at the end of the day is that a significant thing to who we are?" But no, in our minds that's just what we think. And I honestly think in this age it's a little bit harder with social media because at least when we were teenagers we could be a little bit more ignorant to it.
yeah,
You had to
yeah.
buy the Teen Bot magazines and that kind of stuff to be able to see that kind of stuff. Didn't have the TikToks now like we did. So I'm really glad that no one was really ever mean to you. Not that, I'm glad you had any struggles, but at least it's something, that people weren't pointing out or that, had to deal with that. So that's really great. Do you think though, like, do you think that any of that contributed to any destructive patterns of where you see now? Like, even though people tease you and it's a light way, do you think that that helps reaffirm maybe those insecurities that you have about your hair even though it is joking? Like how does that do you think that that subconsciously maybe kind of makes you feel worse about it or do you really just don't generally give a fuck? And if you don't then please give us your tips.
I I would like to say that I honestly just don't give a fuck, and in a way, I don't. But like, yeah, like you're saying, subconsciously, like you make a joke about my hair, and instantly, I'm all on it, just thinking about it right away. It's like, oh, I hate this. I wish I did have nice long locks. So,
A big luscious locks is such a thing.
like,
I totally get it.
I just want to put it up in a man bun or something.
Like why can't I braid my hair? Like why isn't this a thing? And honestly
Exactly.
it sounds bad. It's like not as bad, but I can relate just on a female level. Like obviously I have more hair than you, but if you were to grow your hair, and I honestly think we'd probably have the same amount because I don't have very much either. And like I put my hair in a ponytail, and I think your daughter probably has more hair on her head than I do. So I totally understand that. And I think the one thing too is like the equal fight of being like, I'm sure there's things like aesthetically that we could do. Like, I'm sure I could go get extensions. I know that there's things that guys can get that's like, they're not necessarily plugs. I don't know what the proper word is, but like I've seen people get like hair implants, you know, where they've actually changed their whole line. Like, those are things you can do for sure and spend the money. For me personally, I don't know about you, but I'm on more of a journey as like, I just rather do the work to just learn to accept that that's just okay with, I'm okay with who I am, you know?
Yeah, I've definitely looked into the hair implants and whatnot. It did get to a point where I was kind of always upset about it, and just I just always wish that I could just style my hair some type of way.
For sure.
I did look into it. It is so expensive, and the more I think about it, it's like, why should I bother? Like, I love myself. I've gotten to a point where I can love myself,
Exactly.
and like, there's no point spending the $6,000 to $10,000 to do this. Like, it's just in my genetics that I got unlucky with thin and balding hairs. So
That's a
just
word.
gotta own
Absolutely. And I think too, that's a huge testament to show your daughter too, like, you know, and when she grows up, you know, if that's something that you're free to share with her and, you know, like that's something that bothers me and, you know, I could get stuff, but I just choose to love myself because this is how I was created. And, you know, I love this shift, I think, of this generation trying to pull things away from like as so much as your value and your worth is how you look, more as like who you are as a person and what you're doing for the world. And I think we're helping change that by like accepting things. And I mean, I'm not shading anybody that's puts their money into that and whatever, but for me personally, I know if I put the money into extensions, I just find something else I was pissed off about.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, bitch, you got to fix inside first because no how matter how much you make your house or your body look like a show home, like if you don't fix the interior, like you're not gonna sell the home. I don't know if that even made sense, but you know what I'm saying?
100%. That's a really good way to put it.
Kind of treating
Fixing
my
yourself first is definitely number one.
right. And I feel like once you do that on the inside, then the outside it starts to reflect as such, right? So like what would be a misjudgment about you and your body image? Like would people know from knowing you that you were insecure about your hair? Or did people know that you were insecure when you were younger about your acne?
I don't think anybody really knew.
Fair.
I've always been a quiet person, and I don't really discuss a lot of things. I'm kind of getting there now where I do discuss, and I'm a lot more open. But yeah, I even my closest friends that I spent all my time with, they never really knew about it, and it was just never talked about. It was just my own insecurities inside that was kind of bringing me down.
For sure. And at that time too, I think because it's not as talked about now, we all felt very alone in those feelings. So if we kind of brought it up, it was like, hey, yeah, you're weird, you
Yeah,
know. But
100%.
realistically, if we would have, we probably would have found out that a lot of us are feeling the same way. So yeah, it was definitely then everyone just thought you were like cool, calm, collective. No one would be like, oh yeah, I knew Jeremy, he had issues with this. Like no one would have a clue about that. Good,
Yeah.
good, good. If you're a girl, you'd probably be like me and just blurt it out all the time and insecurities all over the place. Good, good part about being a boy. What are some of the things that you've done in your life that have helped you fight your, so because you said when you were in grade 9 you were really struggling with it and then you it went away but you got better with it and then over time now you're getting better with your hair. What would you say that you've done to help fight those patterns in your mind that like go to the negative?
Um, Honestly, I think it's just all focusing on your mental health. Like, uh, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I
Um,
totally get it.
I mean, you basically just outlined it all in the previous question, because fixing ourselves on the inside first, like, honestly, that's all I ever focus on when somebody says something about my hair, or I start getting insecurity about my hair. The first thing I tell myself is like, it is what it is. Like, I can't do anything about it. We've been through this. How many times have people made jokes about your hair? And we sit here, when I say we, myself, in
I
my
always do
mind.
that too. Me and my multiple
uh,
personalities.
yeah.
I
You want to
totally
date
get it.
multiple people? Pick
Yeah.
one of my personalities.
Yeah. I seen a meme the other day and it was just like something like, oh, when a guy asks for a full personality and I give them 18 and then he doesn't want any of them, like how ungrateful. Kind of laugh.
Yeah.
Like legit though.
Yeah.
No, that's true. And like you said, it's like then reworking those patterns in your head, right?
Yes.
To where that thought goes. And I think I don't know about you, but I get super annoyed with myself sometimes with that. I'm like, okay, haven't we gotten over this yet?
Yeah, I do the exact same thing.
And that's almost where we're at now. It's just like, oh, are we here? Like,
Yeah.
do I have to do this speech or are we just going to let this go? And it's like over time it gets better. I don't know about you, but do you find when you're going through like a harder point in your life, for example, like for me, like transitioning through a job or when we moved here, I found it was a lot harder to use those tools and use those deflective patterns when I was kind of like in a low vibe. It was just like, it almost made it like those things didn't exist.
Yes, I
Like,
find that with a lot of my mental health issues, even though I've overcome a lot of things and like they come up again and again, and I'm good at fixing them in the moment. When something a new struggle shows up, yeah, I all that goes out the window. And honestly, at that point, I think my best thing is just being able to talk to somebody about that stuff.
for sure. Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Which that kind of perfectly leads us into the next question. Do you feel supported in life to talk about your body image issues?
Yeah, I do. I've got I got a number of really good friends, including you and Grant, and
Of course.
like it's just it helps so much to be able to have somebody just to talk to and get that stuff out. Like
Of
if you
course.
can't deal with it mentally inside, then just getting it all out in the open with somebody that's not going to sit there and judge you, it's really great. So I've got a number of those people and I'm really thankful to have that.
I feel this shift in our lives and this age and these generations. I think we were able to do that. I think it was a bit different when we were younger, but I definitely agree with you now, and it is nice. And I think a lot of the time, just talking it out. I don't know. I notice when I talk to people, like, "Oh, thanks for helping me." Sometimes you just like I always say, it's like washing someone's window. Like things are just a little bit muddy, and you just need someone to help clear your vision a little bit. It's like you have so many thoughts in your head, kind of like so many web browsers open that you can't just focus right now, and you have this one and you just need to talk it out. And we've talked about this before, where you don't really need someone to come up with a solution to your problem. You
Yeah,
just want someone to listen,
100%.
just to feel heard. So then now obviously, you've gotten over the acne, which is huge because, yeah, we all have it. It's legit. I don't know why to this day at 34 I still care, but it's whatever, we'll get there. How do you feel now more than ever? Do you feel like you're in a better place when it comes to like your body image? Let's just say is something, even just your body, for example, because I know now that you're in Clone and you're working out more, like how do you feel overall about your body image?
Um, Pretty good. I mean, the last couple weeks has been a little rough. Like I've been just trying to get bigger,
Mm.
which
Typical
I
man.
knew I knew I wanted to get I just wanted to gain lots of weight because I've never been able to gain weight. So I've been really working on that, been eating a ton, and I was hoping to get to 250 pounds. And I've never really been able to break 208.
Look at you
And
go.
right now I'm sitting at about 242,
So
which
close.
I'm I was really happy with myself. But as soon as I stepped off that scale and I looked over in the mirror, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like a blob. Cardio is awful. And like I know this was my goal and I was gonna tone out as soon as I got to my goal of 250. But like I looked at myself, I'm like, this is awful. What am I doing to myself?
Whoops, we
Like
went too far.
I know it's the process, but it just kind of stung me for a little bit, and I'm starting to hit up some cardio again.
That's so
But
funny. I think you and
yeah,
Grant are the exact same right now with that. He's done the same thing. And he's like, "Oh, whoops, this was a bit much." And we got the bike, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get on the spin bike." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure." But
yeah,
and I totally agree with that too, because right now I'm also kind of doing like a building phase, and that's part of the process. You need to put on that mass and that fat, and then when you're gonna look in the mirror, it's not necessarily where you want to be. And I think that's one of the biggest mind mindset kind of like reworks that you have to do, is knowing that where you are right now is helping to where you're going to get, even though you're not seeing it right now. And I think it's a huge one. And then all of a sudden you're there and you're like, oh, this is what that looks like. Shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Most excellent. So then, what would you say that you'd want to do as of right now? Like, let's say goal for 2021, what would you want to try to do better for your own perception of yourself? Like, what are you currently working on, when it comes to like improving, let's say, your body image?
Um, for 2021,
Mm-hmm.
well, I think I've got to a size that I really want to be at. So I think going forward for like the rest of the summer and into 2021, I really want to focus on just keeping that mass and staying toned at the same time, but as well as I really need to work on my eating habits and eating a lot better so that I can achieve those goals.
For sure. It's funny too when you think about it, you're like, yeah, I get all these calories and you're eating all much. And then, you know, I know there's some people that say a calorie is a calorie, and I agree to a degree. But if you're eating constantly, like 300 calories of cake versus like, let's say a protein shake and, some nuts or something, like there is a difference of how you will come out feeling. So
Oh yeah.
I feel like, I was the same way. I was like, yeah, let's put on all these, I got to get those calories. And I was like, oh man, I should really be looking at what nutrients are going into these calories. So, like you say, you don't feel like a blob, because it definitely can feel that way. That's awesome.
Yeah, those chocolate covered almonds next to my bed is a really bad idea.
I know. And then I complain that I don't, because Grant steals my snacks, but I definitely would be a lot fatter if he didn't. So it's like like, okay, I hate that you steal my snacks, but thank you, because, cardio would be a lot harder if you didn't.
Yeah.
So that's great. I'm really glad that you're in a really good place, and especially feeling like you are more open to talk about it and, share your experiences. And, especially for the male side, that doesn't get talked about enough, and it definitely needs to. Women definitely probably talk too much, but, there has to be conversations on all sides. So I really appreciate that you'll be open to that. And if you could go back and give your teenage self a piece of advice, or let's say maybe when you were really first bothered with, your hair issues, what would you say to yourself from your
Um,
experiences now?
I, I think I would just tell myself, like, just focus on you. Don't worry about what other people think about you, because their opinions do not matter. Um, yeah, I don't really know what else I would say. That's pretty much it.
It's very solid
Focus on
advice.
focus on yourself.
And you know what's crazy? I bet you a lot of the times parents or aunts or anybody like around us were probably saying that to us. And we're just like, whatever. This is like everything.
You just don't
You
understand,
don't
Mom.
understand.
God.
Grade 5 is so hard. I didn't get picked first for dodgeball. And then you think about it now, you're like, oh shit. And it's truly advice. I was kind of, we were talking about this. It's kind of a question I ask for everyone. I'm too much of a stubborn bitch to listen to something like that. So I just told myself to like be better at like your nutrition and moving your body, because, like we said
Yeah,
earlier, all those key things, I don't know about you, but that was never a thing when I was a teenager. I didn't think about my sleep or my water consumption or getting good food or, like moving my body in a positive way. Like none of that was on my radar. And I get very curious about where my mental health would be if I took care of that kind of stuff, or if that was
yeah,
even something we were taught, right?
yeah. I think honestly, if I went back to the future and said that to myself, my my teenage self would have been like, "Who the fuck are you?
Yeah,
Leave me
shut
alone. I'm
up.
not listening to your dumbass advice."
Exactly. Just don't care. Hey, okay. As you're like riddled with anxiety, just like walking on eggshells your whole life, you're like, yeah, no problem. Sure. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for answering my questions and being here for technically my first interview alone. Was there anything that we missed or that you'd want to talk about, or any piece of advice or a story that you'd want to leave anybody, maybe struggling with the same issues that you had either then or now, that would, I don't know, make you feel good to share with the world? Or, I mean, our
Um,
community, our like 120 followers. We love you all.
I don't really got much to say, but I would say that just everybody focusing on your mental health. Like I've been going through a lot of issues with my mental health lately, and just really sitting down and focusing on that stuff. really helps me out with like my body issues and everything in life. So as soon as I know that I'm good on the inside, the rest of my life just falls into place, and that's kind of where I'm at now. So like just make sure that you're focusing on your mental health, and you'll get through whatever it is that you're going through.
Totally agree. I know, I love that too. And it's like, we spend so much time focusing on, advancing our career and our education and our, buying a house and going to the gym and getting all those physical goals and all that. And I'm so glad that the last couple of years the conversation has been switched to, okay, but how are you feeling? And,
Yeah.
um, we've all gone through some heavy stuff. And if you don't unload that or unpack a lot of stuff, it'll come and bite you in the ass. And I think we notice that as we're aging, that, you can push us aside. I know for myself, be like, oh, I'm not that. I don't suffer with anxiety. But like the longer I ran away from it and tried to ignore it, the harder it hit me in the face, to the point where I had no choice and I had to deal with it. And I think that was a lot for people in 2020. We got pushed inside our house. And if you hadn't dealt with your shit and you're inside your brain, you were dealing with it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And
That
it
was
is
the ultimate test.
right. And I think a lot of us, they say that this is the year of great awakening. And I think, besides the trash that is the world right now, I think everyone can kind of feel that way for themselves. I think a lot of us had a huge shift in being like, okay, whatever we were doing is not working. Let's sit back, reevaluate what we need to do to get forward. And I think all of us have done that. And that just kind of shows that where we're at in our lives and where we're at in our healing journeys personally. But
Yeah,
well, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time. I hope you had a good time answering my questions. And
I did.
this,
Cracking, but
I know
good.
this, sorry, I know this won't be your last time on here because we have so many conversations yet to have. But thank you for jumping on again. And I'm really excited for the next time you come on our show.
Thank you very much for having me, and everybody take care of yourself.
Thank you. Have a good night, Jer.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.